Commander Samuel Dealey stood on Harder's bridge as the submarine cast off from the pier at Fremantle Naval Base. Behind him, the crew was stowing lines and securing topside equipment. Ahead lay 2,800 nautical miles of ocean between Fremantle and their assigned patrol area west of Luzon in the Philippines. Sam Dealey was 38 years old now. His hair had gone gray at the temples over the past 6 months. The lines around his eyes had deepened. 6 war patrols did that to a man. 6 patrols where every decision you made meant the difference between life and death for 80 men depending on you. This would be Harder's 6th patrol. Her reputation preceded her throughout the Pacific Submarine Force, the destroyer killer, the submarine that charged when others ran. Between December 1943 and June 1944, Harder had sunk 18 enemy ships totaling over 50,000 tons. More importantly, she destroyed 5 Japanese destroyers using tactics that every submarine commander was now studying. But Dealey knew what the official reports didn't say, that every successful attack left him more exhausted than the last, that he dreamed about depth charges exploding overhead, that he'd started writing letters to his wife Edwina before each patrol, letters that began with, "If you're reading this, I didn't make it back." He'd given the latest letter to his executive officer, Lieutenant Commander Frank Lynch, with instructions to mail it only if Harder failed to return. Lynch had taken the letter without comment. They both understood what it meant. This patrol would be different from the others. Harder wasn't operating alone. She'd been assigned to Wolfpack 17, a coordinated hunting group consisting of 3 submarines, USS Harder, USS Hake, and USS Harder. The concept was simple. 3 submarines working together could attack larger convoys more effectively than one submarine alone. They could coordinate their movements, share intelligence, and support each other during attacks. Commander Dealey was in tactical command of the Wolfpack. Hake and Harder would follow his orders during coordinated attacks, but each submarine captain retained authority over his own vessel's safety and tactical decisions. The Wolfpack's assigned patrol area was off the western coast of Luzon, between Manila Bay and the Lingayen Gulf. Japanese convoys moved through those waters constantly, carrying troops and supplies to reinforce their garrisons throughout the Philippines. American intelligence expected heavy convoy traffic throughout August as Japan rushed reinforcements to defend against the anticipated American invasion. As Harder cleared Fremantle Harbor and turned northwest, Dealey reflected on the changes he'd seen over 2 years of war patrols. In 1942, American torpedoes had been notoriously unreliable. The Mark 14 torpedo's magnetic detonator frequently failed, causing torpedoes to pass harmlessly under enemy ships or explode prematurely. The depth control was faulty, making torpedoes run too deep. The contact detonator often failed on direct hits, causing torpedoes to bounce off enemy hulls without exploding. By mid-1944, those problems had been fixed. The Mark 14 torpedo now worked reliably. Its magnetic detonator had been deactivated, replaced with an improved contact detonator. The depth control had been corrected. The torpedo's speed and range had been improved. American submarines could finally attack with confidence that their weapons would function as designed. Dealey had 24 torpedoes aboard Harder, 16 in the tubes, 8 in reserve. Each torpedo was 20 feet long, weighed 3,000 pounds, carried a 600-pound warhead, and could travel 4,500 yards at 46 knots. They were the most effective submarine torpedoes in the world, and Dealey knew exactly how to use them. August 8, 1944, 14:30 hours, 200 miles northwest of Manila. The rendezvous took place in open ocean under clear skies. Harder approached from the east, Hake from the south, Harder from the west. All 3 submarines surfaced simultaneously at the designated coordinates, maintaining a distance of 1,000 yards between vessels. Dealey climbed to Harder's bridge and raised his binoculars. Through the glasses, he could see the other submarines clearly. Hake, commanded by Commander Frank Haler, was a Gato-class submarine identical to Harder. Harder, commanded by Commander Chester Nimitz Jr., son of Admiral Chester Nimitz, was slightly newer but similarly equipped. The 3 captains communicated by signal lamp, exchanging information about their transit routes and discussing patrol plans. Japanese patrol aircraft were active throughout the area, so the submarines would remain surfaced only long enough to coordinate their movements. Dealey outlined his tactical plan. The Wolfpack would operate in a triangular formation, with each submarine positioned approximately 15 miles from the others. This spacing allowed them to cover a patrol area roughly 45 miles across while remaining close enough to respond if one submarine made contact with enemy shipping. When a submarine detected a convoy, it would transmit a contact report by radio. The other submarines would converge on the reported position and coordinate their attacks. The goal was to overwhelm the convoy's escorts by attacking from multiple directions simultaneously, forcing the Japanese to divide their defensive efforts. The plan had one significant weakness. Radio transmissions could be detected by Japanese direction-finding equipment, potentially revealing the submarine's positions. To minimize this risk, contact reports would be brief and transmitted on prearranged frequencies that changed daily. Each submarine would limit transmissions to 30 seconds or less. After 20 minutes of coordination, the three submarines submerged and dispersed to their assigned patrol stations. Harder took the northern position, Hake the southern, Haddo the western. They would patrol these stations for the next 48 hours, then rotate positions to prevent Japanese forces from predicting their movements. August 21, 1944, 8:30 hours off Palawan Bay. For 13 days, Wolfpack 17 patrolled the waters west of Luzon without making significant contact. They'd encountered a few small coastal freighters and fishing vessels, but nothing worth expending torpedoes on. Dealey was growing frustrated. Intelligence had predicted heavy convoy traffic, but the shipping lanes appeared nearly empty. Then, at 8:27 on August 21, Haddo's radar operator detected multiple contacts bearing 45 degrees, range 18,000 yards. The radar signature indicated at least 12 ships moving in formation, a major convoy. Commander Nimitz immediately transmitted a contact report. Harder and Hake, positioned 12 and 15 miles away respectively, began closing the reported position at maximum surface speed. By 9:30, all three submarines had visual contact with the convoy. It was larger than initially estimated, 16 cargo ships organized in 4 columns, escorted by 3 destroyers and 4 smaller patrol craft. The convoy was heading northeast at 10 knots, probably bound for Manila with supplies from the southern territories. Dealey studied the convoy's formation through his periscope. The escorts were positioned ahead and on the flanks, but the convoy's rear was relatively unprotected. That gave him an idea. He transmitted a brief tactical order to Hake and Haddo. Harder would attack from the rear, drawing the escorts toward her. Hake would then attack from the port side while the escorts were distracted. Haddo would maintain position forward of the convoy and attack any ships that broke formation trying to escape. At 10:15, Harder began her approach from astern of the convoy. Dealey positioned the submarine directly behind the rearmost column of cargo ships, using them to mask Harder's periscope from the escort's view. At 1,200 yards range, he had a perfect firing solution on 3 overlapping targets. At 10:27, Harder fired 6 torpedoes in rapid succession, 2 at each of the 3 ships. Then Dealey ordered emergency deep and rigged for depth charges. The submarine dove to 300 feet while her crew counted the seconds until impact. The first explosion came at 58 seconds, then another, and another. 4 hits out of 6 torpedoes fired, 2 cargo ships were sinking, a third was dead in the water with a massive hole in her stern. The convoy erupted into chaos. Ships turned in all directions trying to evade. 2 cargo vessels collided, damaging both. The escort destroyers reversed course and charged toward Harder's last known position, their active sonar pinging loudly. But while the escorts hunted Harder, Hake attacked from the port side. Commander Haler fired 4 torpedoes at targets of opportunity. 2 more cargo ships were hit, one sank immediately, the other began listing heavily. The escorts realized they were under attack from multiple directions. They didn't know how many submarines they faced, only that their convoy was being torn apart. The senior escort commander made the logical decision: abandon the attack on the submarines and concentrate on protecting the surviving cargo ships. The destroyers formed a defensive screen around the remaining vessels and increased speed to 15 knots, trying to outrun the submarine threat. Haddo, positioned ahead of the convoy, had perfect shots at the fleeing ships. Commander Nimitz fired 4 torpedoes, hitting 2 more cargo ships. By 11:30, the attack was over. The convoy had lost 8 cargo ships totaling approximately 35,000 tons. The 3 submarines had expended 14 torpedoes and suffered no damage. It was one of the most successful Wolfpack operations of the entire Pacific campaign. Dealey brought Harder to periscope depth and surveyed the aftermath. Debris and lifeboats dotted the ocean. 2 cargo ships were still afloat but sinking, their crews abandoning ship. The escort destroyers were 8 miles away and moving farther north with the surviving vessels. He transmitted a brief success report to Hake and Haddo, then ordered Harder deep again. Japanese patrol aircraft would arrive within the hour and the submarines needed to clear the area before that happened. August 22, 1944, 14:15 hours off Cape Bellina. The Wolfpack's success at Palawan Bay had not gone unnoticed. Japanese Naval Command knew that American submarines were operating in coordinated groups off Luzon, and they'd responded by reinforcing the local anti-submarine forces. Additional destroyers, patrol craft, and aircraft had been dispatched to hunt the submarines. On August 22, Harder detected 3 coastal defense vessels patrolling southwest of Cape Bellina. These vessels, designated by the Japanese as Kaibakan, were specifically designed for anti-submarine warfare. They were smaller than destroyers, displacing about 900 tons, but they were equipped with modern sonar, depth charges, and rapid-fire guns. More importantly, they were numerous. Japan had built over 60 of these vessels by mid-1944, and they'd proven remarkably effective at protecting convoys from submarine attack. Their shallow draft made them difficult to torpedo, and their aggressive tactics had sunk several American submarines. Dealey considered avoiding the patrol. Harder still had 18 torpedoes remaining, enough for 1 or 2 more major attacks. Wasting torpedoes on escort vessels seemed counterproductive when the primary mission was sinking cargo ships carrying supplies. But these particular escorts were patrolling directly across Harder's planned route to her next patrol station. Going around them would add 6 hours to the transit time, and Dealey had never been one to avoid combat when combat presented itself. At 14:45, he maneuvered Harder into attack position. The 3 Kaibakan were steaming in line formation, each vessel approximately 800 yards behind the other. They were conducting a standard sonar search pattern, pinging actively but not appearing to have detected Harder yet. Dealey let the first vessel pass, then positioned Harder perpendicular to the second vessel's track. At 900 yards range, he fired 3 torpedoes. 2 hit, striking the Kaibakan near the bow and midships. The vessel's forward magazine detonated, breaking the ship in half. Both sections sank within minutes. The remaining 2 Kaibakan immediately turned toward Harder's position, but Dealey had anticipated this. While the escorts charged, he'd repositioned Harder to attack the 3rd vessel in line, the one farthest from Harder's firing position. At 1,100 yards, he fired 2 more torpedoes. Both hit. The 3rd Kaibakan exploded and sank even faster than the 2nd. That left 1 escort vessel, and she was closing fast on Harder's position. Dealey ordered emergency deep and maximum speed. Harder dove to 400 feet while the surviving Kaibakan began dropping depth charges. The depth charge attack was fierce but inaccurate. The Japanese vessel had lost sonar contact during Harder's deep dive, and she was dropping charges based on Harder's last known position rather than actual tracking data. Most of the charges exploded too shallow and too far away to cause damage. After 30 minutes, the Kaibakan broke off the attack and withdrew. Dealey brought Harder back to periscope depth and resumed patrolling. He'd sunk 2 more Japanese vessels, but he'd also announced Harder's presence in the area. Japanese anti-submarine forces would be hunting them now with increased intensity. Later that day, Haddo reported that she'd expended all her torpedoes and was withdrawing from patrol. That left Harder and Hake operating together, but the Wolfpack concept had proven its effectiveness. In 48 hours, the 3 submarines had sunk 10 enemy vessels without suffering any damage themselves. August 23, 1944, 21:30 hours surface transit. Night had fallen over the Philippine Sea. Harder cruised on the surface at 18 knots, her diesel engines recharging the batteries while making transit toward a new patrol area off Palawan Bay. The sky was clear, moonless, perfect for surface running. Visibility was excellent, allowing the lookouts to spot threats at maximum range. On the bridge, Dealey stood beside Lieutenant Sam Logan, the officer of the deck. Logan had been aboard Harder since her first war patrol in 1943. He'd survived 5 patrols, watched the submarine sink nearly 20 enemy ships, lived through dozens of depth charge attacks. He was 26 years old and looked 40. "Captain, I've been thinking about something," Logan said quietly. "What's that?" "This patrol feels different. The Japanese seem more aggressive, more coordinated, like they're specifically hunting us." Dealey nodded slowly. Logan's instinct was correct. The Japanese anti-submarine response had indeed become more sophisticated over the past year. Early in the war, Japanese escorts had been poorly trained and equipped. By mid-1944, they'd learned hard lessons about American submarine tactics and they'd adapted. "You're right," Dealey admitted. "They know we're here, they probably have a general idea of our patrol area, and they're sending everything they've got to find us." "Does that worry you, sir?" "It concerns me, but it doesn't change our mission. We're here to sink enemy ships. We'll do that until we run out of torpedoes or they sink us. Those are the only two ways this patrol ends." Logan was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "The crew's been talking. They think this might be the last patrol, that Harder's luck is running out." Dealey had heard the same rumors. Submarine crews were notoriously superstitious, and there was a widespread belief among submariners that every submarine had a finite amount of luck. Use it up and your number came up. Harder had used a lot of luck over 5 patrols. "What do you think?" Dealey asked. "I think we've been more skilled than lucky, sir. Every attack we've made has been precisely planned and aggressively executed. That's not luck, that's training and experience." But eventually, skill isn't enough. Eventually, you face a situation where no amount of skill can save you, where the enemy gets lucky instead of us." Dealey didn't respond immediately. He watched the dark ocean ahead, listening to the diesel engines rumbling below, feeling Harder rise and fall gently on the swells. Finally, he said, "Then we make sure that when that moment comes, we're still fighting. We don't surrender, we don't run, we take as many of them with us as we can." Logan nodded. That was the submariner's code. If you were going down, you went down fighting. At 21:45, the radar operator reported multiple contacts bearing 315 degrees, range 24,000 yards. The contacts were small and moving slowly, probably fishing vessels or small coastal freighters. Dealey considered investigating but decided against it. Harder's remaining torpedoes were too valuable to waste on marginal targets. They'd save them for a convoy or warships. "Resume base course," he ordered. "Maintain 18 knots." Harder continued north through the darkness, her bow cutting through black water, her lookouts scanning the horizon for threats that might appear without warning. August 24, 1944, 4:53 hours, the final dawn. The eastern horizon was beginning to show the first gray light of dawn when Harder submerged 4 miles southwest of Palawan Bay. The submarine would spend the day submerged, conserving battery power while patrolling the approaches to the bay. After dark, she'd surface again to recharge batteries and transmit patrol reports. USS Harder was operating approximately 4 miles to the north. The two submarines maintained radio silence but knew each other's approximate positions from previous coordination. At 5:10, Harder's sonar operator reported faint echo ringing. Distant, bearing 45 degrees, classification uncertain. It could be a Japanese patrol vessel or it could be natural acoustic phenomena. The ocean played tricks on sonar equipment, especially near coastlines where temperature layers and bottom features distorted sound propagation. Dealey ordered the submarine to periscope depth. Through the periscope, he scanned the bearing where sonar had detected the contact. At first, nothing, then at extreme visual range, he spotted them. 2 ships, small, moving at moderate speed, the distinctive profile of Japanese coastal defense vessels. Dealey studied them carefully. They were conducting a search pattern, zigzagging across a designated area, their sonar pinging actively. They were hunting submarines. More specifically, they were probably hunting Harder and Harder. The tactical situation was straightforward. Harder could attack the escorts, possibly sink both, but doing so would definitely reveal her position to any other Japanese forces in the area. Or she could let them pass and maintain stealth, preserving her torpedoes for more valuable targets. The commander in Dealey wanted to attack. Every Japanese escort vessel sunk was one less threat to American submarines, but the tactician in him recognized the risk. These vessels were bait. Somewhere nearby, other Japanese forces were probably waiting for a submarine to reveal itself by attacking. He decided to observe rather than engage. Harder would track the escorts, plot their search pattern, and avoid detection. If an opportunity presented itself for a clean attack with minimal risk, he'd take it. Otherwise, he'd let them pass. For 30 minutes, Harder shadowed the two Kaibakan. They maintained their search pattern, showing no indication that they'd detected the submarine. Dealey was about to break off observation and move to a different area when his sonar operator reported a new contact. Sonar, new contact bearing 135, range 3,000 yards and closing. High-speed screws, sounds like a destroyer or large patrol craft. Dealey swung the periscope to the new bearing. There, a third vessel approaching fast from the southeast, larger than the other two, moving at least 25 knots. His experienced eye immediately recognized the profile. Not a destroyer, a Kaibakan, but a larger variant. One of the newer 1,300-ton versions equipped with improved sonar and heavier armament. The three vessels formed a trap, two ahead conducting the search, one behind moving to cut off escape routes. It was a coordinated anti-submarine patrol using tactics that Dealey himself had recommended to Admiral Lockwood for American forces to employ against Japanese submarines. The Japanese had learned well. Dealey faced an immediate decision. Harder was positioned between the three patrol vessels, but none of them had detected the submarine yet. He could try to slip away, diving deep and moving slowly to avoid their sonar. Or he could crash dive immediately, accepting that violent maneuvers would create more noise but would get Harder to safety faster. Or he could attack. The old aggressive instinct surged through him. These vessels were hunting him, they expected him to run. What if he charged instead, using the down-the-throat tactic that had worked so successfully against destroyers? But something stopped him. Call it experience, call it instinct. Call it the accumulated wisdom of 5 war patrols and dozens of combat actions. This situation felt wrong. The 3 patrol vessels were too well coordinated. Their timing was too precise. This wasn't a random encounter. It was a planned operation, and Harder had stumbled into the kill zone. Take her deep, Dealey ordered, 400 feet, slow to 2 knots, rig for silent running. Harder's bow tilted downward. The submarine descended through the thermoclines, moving slowly, minimizing noise. At 400 feet, Dealey leveled off and reduced speed to bare steerageway. Above them, the 3 patrol vessels converged on Harder's last known position. Their sonar pinged constantly, searching. But Harder was below the thermocline now, and the temperature differential was scattering the sonar waves, making detection difficult. For 90 minutes, the Japanese vessels searched. They dropped random depth charges, hopping to force the submarine to move and reveal her position. But Dealey kept Harder motionless, drifting slowly with the current, making no sound that might be detected. Finally, at 8:20, the patrol vessels broke off their search and moved away to the northeast. They'd found nothing, and they had other areas to patrol. Dealey waited another 30 minutes before bringing Harder back to periscope depth. The ocean was empty. No patrol vessels visible, no sonar contacts. They'd evaded the trap. But the close call reminded Dealey of what Logan had said the previous night. Eventually, skill isn't enough. Eventually, the enemy gets lucky. That moment hadn't arrived yet, but it was coming. Commander Dealey didn't know that USS Harder, operating 4 miles to the north, had observed Harder's entire encounter with the Japanese patrol vessels through her periscope. Harder's captain, Commander Haler, had watched helplessly as the 3 Kaibakan converged on Harder's position, unable to assist without revealing his own submarine's location. He'd seen Harder crash dive, he'd watched the Japanese vessels conduct their search, and he'd felt immense relief when the patrol vessels finally withdrew without having sunk Harder. But Commander Haler had also seen something that concerned him deeply. The Japanese patrol vessels had been operating with sophisticated coordination, using tactics specifically designed to trap submarines. This wasn't random patrolling. This was an organized hunter-killer operation. Haler transmitted a brief coded warning to Harder. Enemy ASW operations increasingly sophisticated. Recommend extreme caution. Dealey received the message and acknowledged. He appreciated Hayler's concern, but it didn't change the tactical situation. Harder still had 13 torpedoes remaining. Their patrol orders specified remaining on station until August 28 or until all torpedoes were expended. They would continue the mission.